Welcome back. Now, since the advent of democracy, the ruling party has been pivotal in reshaping the socio-economic landscape for those previously marginalized during apartheid. Through social welfare distribution, extensive electrification and providing free education and healthcare, the ANC has notably reduced disparities. However, corruption, mismanagement of state funds and struggling SOEs have cast a shadow over its achievements in recent years. And joining me now following the ANC's manifesto launch to look back at these 30 years is political analyst Asanda Ngoasheng. Thank you so much for your time, Asanda. Now, there have been a lot of misses in the last 30 years. Will the ANC have a harder time than other parties in getting its manifesto promises to land this year?
Well, I think, the ANC, as you've outlined, has really managed to do quite well for most of the first 30 years of democracy. And that is until corruption then became a reality for the political party and patronage lines became more important than service delivery. And so I think that it's in a tough state in that, it has to and is reflecting on the 30 years of good that they have done, but they also have to reflect on the reality of the fact that for the past sort of 10 to 15 years, some may even argue, they haven't really been able to live up to the ideals and the promises that they initially made, and also some of the gains that they made quite early on in their reign or governance.
In that note, though, because I hear your point in the fact that they did very well until obviously corruption and state capture and the sort really started hobbling the progress that they had made. Have they failed so far in creating a productive economy?
Well, I think, it does get a bit complicated when you talk about a country like South Africa, which has a legacy of apartheid. And while, the African National Congress started on like a very, very much of a back foot in the sense that the economy was, on a negative balance. It was actually practically dead economy that they inherited. And not only did they inherit such an economy, they also had to then ensure that they would deliver a government and a state that would deliver services not only for those who were previously categorized as white, but for every single South African, including those who may not even be citizens but be resident of South Africa for various reasons. And so I think, when you look at the legacy of apartheid and the backlog that there was, they really did do a good job. But as I said, where things started to kind of, the train started getting railed off, unfortunately, is when there was widespread corruption, as we saw in, the Zondo Commission, which basically shed light on how bad the situation was. And what a lot of people are really upset about is the fact that the current president, Cyril Ramaphosa, was the deputy president of the country at the time of statewide looting. And so it's very difficult to listen to somebody who presided together with his predecessor on statewide looting and listen and hear them and believe them when they say that they're going to tackle corruption this time. Further, it becomes even more difficult to believe him when he says he's going to tackle corruption, when we're sitting with him not having fully, gotten over or clarified the issue around Phala, and also looking to his NEC, which is basically the hit list or the wanted list of the Zondo Commission itself. And so it's going to be quite a difficult and a tough election, I think, for the ANC. But I don't think they're necessarily going to lose this election, as some pundits have said. I think the ANC continues to be popular for various reasons across South Africa. And I think that it's likely to still see, a majority, even if it's closer, it's going to be probably in the 40s at the worst case scenario, or at 50%, or even just slightly above. And the reason I say that is because, unfortunately, we have opposition politics and opposition politicians who have not been able to provide a better or a viable alternative for people. That's why we see people would rather not vote than get out and go and actually vote for the opposition. And a lot of people who talk about why they don't vote will tell you they don't vote because they don't believe in the ANC anymore, or it's a protest vote against the ANC that we're seeing, but it's for political parties. And so it tells you that the ANC still holds quite a lot of weight with a lot of South Africans. And so we can't really discount it, or we can't discount it at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at how things have gone, so would you say that the ANC does not have a policy problem, but rather a problem with implementing good policies?
Yeah, I mean, the ANC to this day, I always maintain, has some of the best policies for solving some of the problems that plague South Africa. But the issue has been that it doesn't always implement, and when it does implement, it doesn't monitor, and when it does monitor, it doesn't always evaluate and review. And so because of this, those policies then end up gathering dust, or only being implemented halfway before, its own politicians then take the money that is meant to be for delivering their very services that can realize the dreams and the visions as outlined in their various manifestos. And this is where the problem is, that it has great plans, it has great visions and strategies, but its own people and its own kind of culture of corruption leads to the money that's meant to be going to people and meant to be going to service delivery ending up, unfortunately, in the pockets of individuals, which is how South Africans then end up not getting the services that they need. But I want to also highlight that one of the most interesting things about this election for me is that it's not just that the ANC as kind of on tenterhooks on some level, but I think South Africans have made it very clear that they actually are against the dominance, in that not only is it the ANC that has seen a decrease in percentage numbers in terms of its support, it's also the DA itself in the Western Cape seeing up to a 5% decrease in the last national election in terms of people voting for them. And so I think that it's not just the ANC that needs to be thinking about how it's going to get people back, it's also the DA. And I think people are just tired of the same old politics, and at this point are even over kind of breaking down exactly who is part of the problem. They're just tired of the current body politic, which is a good opportunity for new political parties who are seemingly coming across with fresh ideas and fresh thinking around how to solve these age-old problems of South Africa. But unfortunately, when it comes to even that, while we are seeing a widening democracy with up to 350 political parties touted to be vying for ownership of South Africa at this point, we also know that when you look at the number of registered people, which is about 27.7 million, and you look at the fact that the ANC normally gets anything between 10 million and up to 12 million votes, they are literally 2 million shy of the majority. And what we may find is that it may well be that the competition is between the 349 political parties vying for, everything over and above that 50%. At this point in time. And that's what's concerning me, that we need to really think about what is going to happen with so many political parties. Are we going to end up seeing kind of wasted votes, in the sense that if somebody gets 20,000 votes, that's taking away votes from another political party that potentially could have needed them to actually make it over the line to get a seat in parliament? Because that's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
All right. Well, we will be getting all that action from the 29th of May. Thank you so much for your time and for your insights, Asanda. That was political analyst Asanda Ngoasheng.